Hello and welcome to the LA whipcon 2021 virtual competition. And every year we normally would be in LA doing a meet and greet with cracking and targeting and generally hanging out and talking about all things whips. And of course, we would do competitions just like we're doing virtually this year. And this year is obviously very different because of COVID and our quarantine and so forth. We are doing this virtually. And of course, one of the things we miss the most is the camaraderie and hanging out with other people. Today, we are doing that and hopefully bringing us all together with wonderful things like what we're doing right here. Today, I'm joined with Johnny Ohgren. Nope, I screwed it up.
Ohgren,
Oh,
but for all my foreign friends, Ohgren is absolutely fine.
Ohgren. All right, you're welcome to Texas. You're Ohgren now. So
thank you very much.
um, so yeah, like I said, we miss hanging out with our friends, right? We don't get to see you. I mean, you're on the other side of the world from me, but
Yeah,
the pandemic.
yeah, it is what it is, But
Right.
technology, that's a good thing in these situations.
Absolutely. And hopefully to that end, we can bridge the gap just a little bit. So for those that haven't heard probably other interviews and all with you over the years, how long have you been cracking whips? And tell me a little bit about yourself. I know that last year you took second place in the leather whip design at the LA WhipCon, which is super impressive. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, but it was
Third
third
place. It
place.
should have been second place. I'll put it that way. Should have been first place. It was beautiful. No.
Evan Fava got second, and Blake Gorey got first, and I'm happy to lose to those guys. So
they were all beautiful. I don't know how they picked. Well, either way, congratulations, and I want to talk more about that here in just a minute. But how long have you been cracking whips and been into the whip world, as it were?
Well, I think I got into whip making in 2014, I believe it was. Uh, Most people get into whips, from the movies and stuff like that, but I sort of ventured into it from the craft side of things. I started making some small leather items, and then I just got a weird idea to make a whip to put on the wall.
Ah,
And
yeah.
started researching how to go about building a whip, and everything else when it comes to leather work sort of faded away. It was all whips.
It's kind of the
And
pinnacle.
yeah, for sure. So I said this before, like whip making is such a small part of leather crafts and stuff like that, but the rabbit hole might be small, but it's very deep.
It is much like
Once
the
you
whip.
fall in, yeah, once you fall into it. So yeah, I got into it from arts and crafts sort of perspective, and then I just started cracking
Right.
them.
Right. So it's only been the last few years you've really rocketed off to such a amazing level of skill and artistry in it. It's really stunning. And anyone that hasn't seen your work definitely needs to go to your website. What was that? Witchcraft Whips
It's witchcraftwhips.se. So it's not
dot se
.com. I hopefully to make it .com later, but
dot
yes.
se. All right, yeah, definitely. Everyone should go check that out. Um, so going back to our competition, our WhipCon, obviously it's very different for you because you're still on the other side of the world. You're in Sweden, correct?
Yep. Yep.
And I mean, no trip to California, so you have to shovel
No,
snow.
this year I was quite disappointed this past Monday because I got a reminder on my phone. Remember to go to gate
Oh
because
no!
I had my tickets booked like for about 10 months or so. I essentially just stepped off the plane last year and booked my return flight for this year. But
Wow. Yeah,
that's just
like
how
you
it
said,
is.
it is how it is.
Yeah.
So, how else has it been different? I mean, both positives and negatives. Obviously, you're not having to travel, but is there anything that's been a positive for you doing this new virtual competition, as it were?
Well, I think the virtual competition is really great in a way because we have the opportunity to still have a lot of whip related fun together. And it also is a great opportunity for people who can't make it out to participate as well, which is fantastic. The real bummer is, like you were saying before, not getting to hang out with
Right.
everyone. And the one thing that I was really looking forward to, except for just hanging out with people, is the whip making competition, obviously.
Right.
Because I'm truth be told, I know how to crack a whip, but I'm more of a whip maker than I am a whip cracker.
You're not looking to unseat Adam Winrich anytime soon.
Not in a foreseeable future, at least.
You're doing the Australian competition circuit maybe next year, right?
Maybe next year, yeah.
Right. No, you definitely, that is where you excel, and it's. I mean, I've seen you crack your whips as well. You do. It's beautiful. I love the flow that you do. It's just so smooth, which probably is a testament to your whips and whip making as well. Just how beautiful they roll out.
Maybe. I was listening to your interview with Justin yesterday. Mm-hmm. And you guys were talking about the routines and stuff like that,
right.
And how people maybe did like 50 or 60 takes. But the one that I make, I don't expect to win anything, because that was just me going outside. It was really cold. It was like minus 23 Celsius. I believe that's like minus 4 or 5 Fahrenheit.
Goodness.
So that was literally the first and only take. And I didn't have a routine planned out. I just made, the required cracks and just went at it. But
I wasn't sticking around. It looks good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best cracking I've done, but it's not the worst either. But speaking of routines and stuff like that, I didn't really have anything in mind. I'm normally don't like, making up certain routines. I'm not really a fancy whip cracker, and truth be told, I'm not that into learning really advanced tricks, because like I said, I'm more about the whip making, whips like that. Right. So me cracking whips, that's just me enjoying the whip in a way, like it was a glass of wine. I want to feel all the nuances and stuff like that, but I'm not that much for difficult tricks.
No, and I can appreciate that too, because I think is more people like that than we might expect. There certainly are people that want to learn a dance and all the steps and all the turns and twists and dips that go into it, and do it exactly the same way each time. And you can have a very perfectionist way to attack that. But there is something to be said to someone that approaches it more of a flow arts approach, to where it's what feels good, what you go into, what you're comfortable with. And sometimes you can feel that coming through when some of those flow artists are using their whips. And it'll be interesting to talk to more people like that as well. But, like you said, you were looking forward to the whip making competition. Yeah. What is it that... aside from just entering the competition and making something and looking forward to participating and having someone judge your work, what else is it about that you enjoyed when you were there and that you were looking forward to?
Well, it's a great opportunity, not just the whip making competition per se, but just getting to see so many whips from so many different makers. And then, entering your work into a competition where, highly qualified judges can look at your work and give you constructive criticism, maybe.
Sure.
Or maybe point out certain things that are really good and stuff like that. So it's really a great part in sort of evolving as a whip maker. Now, the competition last year was the first one I entered, but I would love, to enter more competitions, not, in pursuit of medals and stuff like that, but just to sort of get that input from both the judges and other people, looking at your work.
Right. The judges were what, Adam and Peter Thorndike. Is that correct?
Peter Thorndike and Paul Nolan.
Paul Nolan, that's right. Yeah, and not to mention everyone else there that was looking at the work that you could talk to.
For sure.
Yeah, both. Wow, those are amazing. To have that sort of feedback. Was there anything in particular that you took away last year that you've been able to implement over this year?
Well, maybe a wee bit in strand preparations because making a really nice whip, I'd say more than 50% is making really good
Sure.
strands. And the whip that I entered in the competition was a 48 plat in the handle and 24 plat in the thong. And I'm not really accustomed to making, that high plat counts. Normally I'm between, 12 plat and a 24 plat in that realm. And I'm quite,
Sure.
comfortable making those plat counts. But, jumping from 24 up to 48, that's a massive difference. So working with the strands, that's fine. I think I cut them to 1.6
Oh my
mils, something like that. And
goodness.
just prepping them, it's not like working with a 6 mil strand. So
Sure.
I really had some room for improvement in the strand preparations of strands that narrow. So I got some really good pointers when it
Yeah,
comes to that. So I'm really happy.
that's great. That's great. I mean, I can even see behind you. It looks like you've got some high plat count designs in the works
Yeah,
there.
I think that one partially at least is from the uh, competition whip that I made last year,
Oh, okay.
because I was working on the patterns like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months before that, and I sort of printed them out and had them on my wall just to have them in the corner of my eye all the time to see if I need to change anything.
And we're back for part two with Johnny Ohgren, as I'll say in Texas. Close enough. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, we were talking about how we're going to do a whip making meetup virtually. And yeah, it's tricky. And I wanted to talk to you and see if you have, maybe I should have warned you about this ahead of time. If you have anything handy, just show off. Talk a little bit about something you're particularly excited about right now or something you've learned specially this year. I don't know if you have some strands you wanted to talk about. I don't know if you want to show off anything. But if not, that's
Well,
okay. We can continue to chat about. One of the things that
I'm looking around the shop trying to find something. The issue is that most whips I make normally gets packed up and shipped the next day,
true.
so I don't have much stuff laying around to really show off.
I
But
definitely will have people go to your website. I really like the mobile base that you made, the whip making station over there behind
yeah,
you. I think that's really clever. And I mean, I see pieces from different whip makers. I definitely see some Peter Thorndike influence on the way that it's designed there,
yeah,
um, and how you've continued to refine it to meet your needs. Have you made any major updates to it since you initially
you
posted
you
about the design?
you want to get a quick
Yeah, let's
rundown of it?
do that. Could you? Are
Yeah,
we mobile enough for that?
yeah. Let's do some
Yeah,
basic
let's do
camera
that.
stuff.
How
Let's
exciting!
see here. Maybe if I can flip the camera around as well.
What?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Anyway, we're gonna do it like this. So yeah, the basic setup is much like the one I saw Peter Thorndike use, where you have the double vices, one on either
Right.
side. And that's really handy because, this is semi-portable. I got it clamped to my workbench right here, so it's nice and solid on there. But if I need to travel to go do a workshop or whatever, I can just unclamp it, throw it in the trunk of my car, and get on my way. And I especially like the double vices because if I'm doing a matched pair, I can
Mm-hmm.
work on one whip, one side, and work the other one right here.
Ah.
And if I'm doing a workshop, I can be working in one vice, and if one of the students is having some difficulties with whatever, they can clamp their work right here, and we can work side by side, and I can show them
I see. I see. And I see you've added some
whatever.
pockets and things as well.
Yeah, just some basic tools that I need. I got some pliers and some fids and spare blades. I also mounted some extra lighting here on top,
Okay, yeah.
and I got a switch on the back so I can turn it on and off.
That's very clever.
And just a holder for some sinew right here, and yeah.
How much space do you have behind you from that workspace to the wall?
Well, I got about, I'd say, 8 feet, give or take.
Okay, so you can do quite a bit of work without having
Yeah,
to move the work up on the vise.
exactly.
Awesome. I like that a lot. And you mentioned workshops. I've seen different posts where, yeah, you're in a classroom type setting, it seems like, and you're showing all these people. Tell me a
Yeah,
little bit about that. How often and all?
yeah. That the most recent workshop I made was well, almost a year ago. Then COVID got the better of us, and that was in a saddlery school, actually, a couple
Wow.
of hours south of me. So they got in touch with me and wanted me to make or do a whip making workshop, really. So we spent about let's see, we met for one day, and I gave them sort of the basic of everything, and then I got some homework to make the insides of the whip, and then we met a couple of weeks later, and we got to work on the overlay, and then we're gonna have a last meetup to put the knots on the whips and do the finishing touches. But due to COVID, we had to cancel and make that a
Right.
virtual
Right.
event.
Do you
So
do that very often? It looked like it was really successful from the pictures you showed.
yeah, I would say it was. We had about we had 15 students attend, I believe,
Wow.
or was it 18? But you know, when it comes to I can make plaiting workshops where you learn the basics of cutting strands and stuff like that, and do some
Hmm.
basic braiding. But for a whip workshop, the groups need to be kind of small. You know, it's really difficult having 15 people pulling at you from all angles, where everyone needs help with different things and stuff like that. So when it comes to whips, I really prefer making one-on-one workshops
Sure.
and classes.
There's
But
so much detail, I'm sure.
yeah, it's really useful to be able to work side by side with someone and really show them their hands-on stuff and things like that. But
Yeah.
I'm really hoping to do more both plaiting and whip making workshops, because it's great fun.
Have you thought about doing virtual workshops worldwide?
No, I haven't really. I can't say too much, but I'm working on something that might be of use for the up and coming whip
Awesome.
makers out there.
That's exciting. I
But
look forward to hearing from it.
more on that later.
All right. Well, not to interrupt, we have several people that have joined our live here, and want to say hi and see if anyone has any questions. We've got Keith Smith, we've got Isaac Eliason, and we've got Rufus Roughgut. We've got several people joining us. So if you guys have any questions, they're admiring the dome here, the pair.
Oh, yep.
But
Great
yeah, if you
minds
guys
don't
have any
meet.
questions, yeah, if you guys have any questions, shout it out. We can chat about it. I I think we could join more people to this call too. If I don't know if you guys have a button to push to try to join, I could accept you if you want to chat about it, because that's what this is all about, is having that hangout. If you and I were chatting and Keith walked up, we would absolutely continue chatting. We wouldn't snub him.
Well,
Well,
oh,
we
okay,
might.
okay.
Well, okay. Well, if Rufus walked up, we would continue chatting. So
For sure, absolutely.
oh goodness, yep. Rufus says he's busy making whips at the moment. So there you go. We're hopefully
That's a
inspired.
valid excuse.
That it is. It is. I would be doing that myself, actually, if it wasn't for these videos. I've got 2 of them I'm making over here.
Yep.
But
That's nice.
that's great, and I'm looking forward to see what can happen virtually. I know that Blake Bruning has a video series that he's been selling. That's I actually went through that, and I made a 12-pat indie style over there, and a couple of 4-footers, and it was great. It was my first experience really making a leather whip from scratch. I was going through his videos, so Yeah, there's a market, man.
Yeah, I know. But there's also great, there's so much information on YouTube.
There is.
The really bad thing is that it's sort of scattered all over the place. So you get bits and pieces from different makers, and you might work that into your own personal style.
Hmm.
But it could also be that if one maker shows you a particular way of doing things, that might be very particular to their way of the entire
Exactly.
build, perhaps. So you
Right.
get sort of mismatched bits and pieces here and there. But
In one of
it's
the whip making books, actually, there was a quote. I forget who said it, but it was, "There is your style of making whips, and then there's the wrong way of making whips."
yeah,
And every whip maker will say that there's my way and there's the wrong way.
exactly. But
And
that's sort of what's so fun with whips in general, because eh, I think that if the whip cracks, regardless of how much brute force you have to use to crack it, if it can produce a crack, the whip is functional. Then it can
absolutely.
be more or less functional, but so many things in whip making is all about personal preference.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
like if you take 10 chefs, they'll probably make you 10 different lasagnas, and everyone is gonna think that their lasagna is the best.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's all up to your taste which restaurant
That's
you go
right. My
to.
mom always put squash in hers, probably to get me to eat my vegetables. But I think that would be a sin for most people.
Yeah, maybe. Never
Yeah,
tried
no,
it,
I
but
get that though. And actually, along that same line of the way we make whips, one way or another way, different ways, we have a question from Keith. He is asking us, Johnny, do you do anything differently for your transitions to make a whip more for routines or targeting?
I wouldn't say I do anything differently with the transitions. Let's see, I think I've got a handle foundation here somewhere. Handle foundation. Um, Generally, I want a bit of a rollout from the handle, but
Right?
I also like the sort of flicks you get from the end of the handle from a stock whip, say. So I don't, I know I have a video on YouTube explaining my way of binding the transition, where I bind, quite a bit out into the
Right.
thong or the flexible part. But since that video, things have changed. So the only thing I do really for the transition nowadays is add maybe 2 inches of binding, just, sort of past the end of the handle. And
Hmm.
the only reason I do that is because if, for whatever reason, the whip were to bend sharply right at the end of the handle, I don't want it to bend against the steel. So if I
Sure,
have
yeah.
hard binding a quarter inch past the handle, it will bend at the end of the binding.
Right.
So it's just sort of a fail safe, really. It's nothing to produce a specific sort of transition or stuff like that.
Hmm.
But that's essentially what I do.
So some of the other whip makers I've talked to have talked about pluses and minuses of using binding to get the tension of that transition and the tension of the taper, if you will, the taper of the transition from stiff to
Yep.
flexible, right? And literally that the tightness of the strands themselves can be, I mean, those are binding, right? Each
Yep.
strand
Sure.
is binding around the previous layer,
Yep.
the bolster or previous bellies. And are you consciously thinking about that? How you're trying to be really cranking it down on those, on that first foot, on that first couple of feet versus, uh, or what? How does that work for you?
Yeah. Well, for me personally, what I tend to do is for the first belly, I braid the whole thing quite hard. I want the handle and the first section of the thong coming off the handle to be the tightest, really, because I don't want any twisting in the handle,
Sure.
and I want a really good, strong transition area. So, but the first belly I normally braid at an equal tension, if you will. When I get onto the second belly, I normally do an 8-plat second belly. So I go really hard on the handle, and when I get to the end of the handle, I switch it up to a checkerboard instead of the herringbone, because the checkerboard pattern is sort of less resilient to bending. I mean, it will bend
True.
perfectly fine, but it's just a bit stiffer. So maybe about the first foot from the transition is diamond plat,
Interesting.
and then I go back to the regular herringbone again. And for the overlay, I essentially go as hard as the strands will allow for the handle, and I maintain that for the first 12 inches of the thong, and then I gradually ease off just a wee bit to get a nice rollout.
Right. And I think that's where some of the experience of the whipmaker really shows too, is that it's very easy for there to be a noticeable drop in the tension when it's a newer whipmaker. I know some of my early whips definitely show that. And it's just due to tension inconsistencies.
Yeah,
Probably where I
because
break.
when you have say a second belly, you have your braided portion of the belly,
Hmm.
and that has some rigidity to it because it's braided tightly,
Right?
so it has stiffness. But when the braiding terminates and you're left with the strand ends, they're just hanging off.
True.
So when you cover that with the overlay, you need to have the overlay really firmly on there, not to have a sort of kink or a big drop
Yeah,
in the tension.
exactly. Yeah, that's a really
So
good
it's
tip.
just one of many things just to keep in mind.
Rufus is saying that's what I do on my bullwhip with the single diamond pattern. Yeah, I think Nick put that in his 2020 build instruction as well. His video he
Okay,
released a couple of months ago on his bellies. He does the single diamond over the transition area.
yeah,
So
that's cool.
great minds think alike, I guess.
Maybe.
And Keith is calling you a total Viking, by the way, with your beard.
Thank you.
I love it.
I should have put a braid in it, perhaps.
I mean, the strands of your competition whip, it's almost the same width as your beard hairs. My goodness. Those are 48 strands.
For the 2022 competition, I might make a whip out of Viking
You should
beard hair.
do that. Yeah, horns on it and everything. I think it would be perfect.
For sure.
Speaking of some silly whips, if you will, your April Fool's videos have always been the joy of the last few years. By the way, I look forward to 2021. It's always encouraging. I'm still looking forward to the data capture chip in the heel of
Yeah, but
my whip.
still working on it. I hopefully have it out later this year, but I'll keep everyone posted.
Please do. That's great. And this is the sort of thing that I was looking forward to with these sort of chats, that we can have people asking questions and exchanging information. I wish I had something to return with knowledge, but I feel like I would be preaching to the choir, as it were.
Well, I'm enjoying talking to you, Christian, so I'm happy.
Absolutely. Well, great. Did you on the video you submitted, did you do a double hand as well, or you just do the single, or do you a performance, or?
No, I just did a single whip freestyle because I've got a couple of matched pairs, and I try to get into the two-handed stuff. But again, when it comes to my interest in whips, learning very advanced and complex techniques, that's really just not my cup of tea, really. As far as double whip stuff, the only thing I really want to learn is the Queensland crossover, because it's a really nice routine to have both whips going. But other than that, I don't really aspire to learn too much, because I really just, like I mentioned earlier, just want to enjoy the whip, really.
Right. Do you think there could be another, I don't know if you'd call it a video competition like we're doing here, but something else that would better appreciate that sort of thing that you appreciate, to say these are the best feeling? Which, I mean, they look like they're the best feeling. I don't know, maybe we just call it flow arts, or maybe that's the performance.
Yeah, it's really hard to say, man, because even having the virtual competition is absolutely fantastic. Like I was saying before, you know, having so many more people being able to just join in, but there's quite a bit of stuff that really don't translate that well into video or the virtual world. I was talking to Peter Thorndike regarding the possibility of still having the whip making competition, but in a virtual form. So just send pictures, you know, of a nice whip you made. But I really don't think that's a good idea, because if we're gonna do a virtual whip making competitions, I'm not saying that people would cheat,
You could.
but you know, you could easily hide, you know, flaws, you know, with just the right angle. And if someone has a really nice camera, being able to produce really high quality pictures, they might be ahead of you. But
That's true.
you know, it's sort of unfair. I feel like for a whip making competition, especially, the judges should be able to really, you know, scrutinize the whip and look at every tiny aspect of it.
Right. One thing
But
I heard,
yeah,
and maybe you can attest to this, as I didn't get to use Nick's, I haven't used Nick's winning bullwhip, but I heard that the flow on that one was just incredible. The synthetic,
yeah,
that was really what everyone commented on and what pushed him over the edge. And
yeah,
that's something that you wouldn't be able to judge at all with,
exactly.
even if it was
Because you know,
video.
as far as I recall and remember, generally whip making competitions, you know, both the one in LA and traditionally in
Mhm.
Australia, are judged, you know, 50% on the appearance and looks, and 50% are
Uh-huh.
the function. So if you have a really nice whip, but it doesn't handle, you fall, you know, straight down. And same if you have a really nicely working whip, but it looks horrible, you're still going to be way down. So you have to have a really nice looking whip and a really high performing whip as well.
Right. So I think that would mean is that at best we could get half of the half of the data we need to judge it. So
Yeah,
right. No, I can understand that. And doing some sort of, and maybe it would be that in-person thing for future years. And I mean, like I have in my notes here for to ask about, how'd you make your routine and what did you do on all these different things. But on the flip side, on my flow chart is that if you didn't submit it, why not? And these are the sort of questions that I think are important to explore for, I want to grow this community. I love talking to other whip makers and whip crackers. And, what is it that you love about it? And how can we have something that, feeds your needs, whoever the you is I'm talking to? And, hearing these sort of things from you is really important. So thank you very much. And hopefully Adam will hear these as well for future routines and future competitions or whatnot.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but Rufus just commented, and what looks good is purely subjective.
yeah, for
So
sure, for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Like if you were extremely averse to snakes, I don't think Blake Gory would have won, for example. But it's such a
Perhaps,
stunning whip. Yeah, that
absolutely.
was yeah. So if anyone else in the chat has any questions, definitely shout out, and we'll be happy to address them. Um, Let me just scan through these real quick. Looks like Eddie Vasquez joined us. Howdy, Eddie. Good to see you. Hope to
Welcome,
chat
welcome.
with all you guys soon. Um, Johnny, are there any questions from you to me, or that you want to talk to the whip community about? Anything on your heart?
Well, not on top of my head, you know. Again, you know, I think it's fantastic, you know, for it's a fantastic initiative to make these
Oh, well,
interviews,
thank you.
really. And like I said, I was enjoying the one I was looking at earlier with Justin. I hope there will be plenty more to watch, because you know, again, you know, the primary thing with the LA whipcon is the whole social aspect of it. I mean, the competitions are good and fun and stuff like that, but you know, for me personally, you know, just hanging around with everyone, having conversation, stuff like that, is the
Yes,
absolute best. So you know, it is what it is, you know. But this is really a great initiative, and I thank you for it.
absolutely. It's my pleasure, and I look forward to meeting you in person one day, and maybe at
Yeah,
LA next
same
year.
here, man.
So that I
I'll
look
be there
forward
for sure.
to it. All right. Assuming COVID-3 doesn't start or something.
Yeah.
So tell us if we are so impressed by all your words of wisdom today and we want to buy a whip from the Johnny, how would we go about that? And tell me how I can support you if need be.
Yeah. Well, essentially, you just need to get in touch with me. Really, I'm all over Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Recently ventured onto Reddit as well.
Oh, I'm so
I'm
sorry.
trying to figure out how the site works because I feel like a hedgehog in a balloon house. Everything I touch on Reddit sort of
Yes,
turns into, yeah.
that's a very
But
good, good description.
so essentially, you just need to get in touch with me. My website is witchcraftwhips.se. You could also shoot me an email at info@witchcraftwhips.se. Uh, just find me anywhere and I'll help you out for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I hope everyone goes over and checks you out and sends you lots of business. So thank you again for
Me
joining me.
too.
And anyone else watching this, if you're interested in chatting with the whip community or just want to talk with me, that's fine. Let me know. And I look forward to talking with everyone. Thank you again, Johnny. And I hope you
Thank
have a
you very
great day.
much. Take care,
Bye-bye.
man. Bye.
All right.